The Legend of Old Mother Cleaver. This is a true story. I know that's cliché to say. In this day and age, claiming something incredible happened without video proof is a surefire way to make certain people won't believe you. Everyone does it, though, especially in the realm of the scary and the supernatural. Movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Strangers are supposedly based on true stories. But when you take a look at the events inspiring them, you'll find an excessive amount of artistic license has gone into the end product. The result, many times, is that the tale told becomes hardly recognizable from its source material. I guess the writers and directors figure reality isn't scary enough. The story I'm about to relate happened, though, just the way I'm telling it, no embellishment needed. I wouldn't lie about that because, well, you'll see. I grew up in a different world than today. The internet wasn't commercialized yet, phones were still attached to the wall, and kids played outside on afternoons and weekends. The information age is marvelous, an incredible amount of knowledge available instantaneously at our fingertips. Questions that in my youth would have taken days of research at the library to answer are satisfied in moments with a quick Google search. The issue, I've found, is having access to such a font of knowledge has made us lazy. We assume, incorrectly, that we can find anything online. If there's nothing there, if the search results come up empty, it must either be unimportant or simply not exist. That's not true. Some things, some very real, very important things, have avoided making the digital leap. Things like Old Mother Cleaver. My mom and I moved to a new town a couple weeks after my 13th birthday. My dad was in the army, and eventually Mom got tired of pulling up her life and starting over every couple of years. My parents decided to try a trial separation and jointly concluded I'd go with Mom since Dad's lifestyle wouldn't be ideal for raising a kid by himself. I didn't get to have much of an opinion in the matter, so that was that. My mom wanted to live somewhere we could put down roots. She said she was looking for a place that embodied pure Americana, small town living but close enough to a big city that you could catch a flight if the itch to travel caught you. And that's where we ended up, a little town in Pennsylvania not far from Pittsburgh. I'm not going to say exactly where because, well, then I'd consider myself responsible for anything that might happen to anyone looking to corroborate my story. Just think of It's a Wonderful Life and that will give you a pretty good idea. It was summer when we arrived, a particularly hot one, and I remember flies the size of gumballs flitting through air that seemed hazy because of the heat. Mom got a job as a secretary for the judge at the town courthouse. She worked long hours, and since I wouldn't be starting school until the end of August, I was left to my own devices from pretty much sunup to sundown. The little 2-bedroom duplex she could afford on her salary, even supplemented with monthly checks from my dad, was cozy but didn't have air conditioning, minus a few ceiling fans that didn't do much to cool you off. Accordingly, I spent most of my days wandering around town to take my mind off the heat. That was how I came to meet Tom and Terry, siblings who for that summer became my best friends in the whole world. They were Irish twins, Terry being my age and Tom slightly older. Tom was gregarious and energetic, Terry more reserved and bookish, but despite their differences they shared curly brown hair, emerald green eyes, and a tight-knit bond. Even though we were on a pretty meager budget, my mom gave me a couple dollars a week in allowance that I would generally blow at the old-fashioned soda shop downtown. I first ran into the brothers at the store's comic rack and we bonded over the latest issue of Uncanny X-Men and chocolate milkshakes. Eventually we realized we only lived a couple blocks apart from each other. From that first meeting on, we were nigh inseparable. Tom and Terry were in a similar situation to me. Their mom had died a couple years earlier and their dad worked the night shift at the paper mill just outside town. Most mornings I'd take my old 10-speed over to their house where we'd meet up and head out for the day. The two of them had lived there since they'd been born, so they were able to show me all the interesting things there were for kids to do in town and throughout the surrounding area. If nothing out of the ordinary had happened that summer, I'd still remember it as clearly as I do now from all the memories I built with Terry and Tom. Every day was an adventure. Bike races down Breakneck Hill, cannonballs in the swimming hole out in the East Woods, catching fireflies in the twilight gloom, and many others. Looking back now, I recognize the first part of that summer composed the framework to a kind of youthful Eden. Occasionally we would have sleepovers. The brothers' house stood on the edge of their neighborhood, and they had a large backyard bordered by thick, leafy woods. The oppressive heat thankfully gave a reprieve most days after the sun went down, so some nights we'd build a bonfire and pile sleeping bags into the tent Tom still had from 6 months in the Boy Scouts. It was on one of those evenings about 2 months after I moved to town, toasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories, that I was introduced to the legend of Old Mother Cleaver. "You don't know about Mom Cleaver?" Tom asked with a grin, firelight reflecting off his teeth. I shook my head. "What, is she some kind of urban legend? Like the Hook or Bloody Mary or something?" "Or something," Terry murmured. Tom laughed. "No, nothing like those little kitty stories. The Cleaves is real. That's what most urban legends want you to believe. If she's so real, how come I've never heard of her?" Tom shrugged. "Probably because she's local. But she's definitely real. Our dad told us the story about her one time when he got super drunk. A long time ago, there was this lady that lived in a little house out in the woods with her son. Everyone in town knew she was supposed to be a witch, but because they would go to her for love potions and to help deliver babies, they pretty much just ignored it." "Really? A witch?" "Shut up, that's what my dad said. Anyway, the mayor's wife was having a baby, but she died giving birth. The mayor said it must have been something the witch did and got everyone in town all worked up. A bunch of people went out to her house and burned it down." I rolled my eyes and speared another marshmallow. "And now the witch's ghost haunts the town, right?" "No, Mr. Smarty Pants. The witch wasn't home. My dad figures she must have been pretty upset about the mayor's wife and was wandering in the woods when the crowd got there. The only one in the house was her son. And he..." Tom nodded somberly. "My dad said the witch promised she'd have justice for her son's murder. But since the one mostly responsible was the mayor, she didn't trust the courts would find him guilty. So, she took the cleaver she used to cut up the ingredients for her potions and went into town. She used a spell to find out who had burned her house and, night by night, snuck into their rooms and hid under their beds. While they were sleeping, she snuck out and used her magic to make her voice sound like their mother's. She confronted them with what they did, then listened to what they said while they were only half awake. If they were honest and admitted to the killing, she gave them a kiss on the forehead and left. But if they lied, she took her cleaver and chopped off their heads." I rolled my eyes. "That's pretty unbelievable. They didn't realize it was the witch killing people? Why didn't they get another crowd together and burn her at the stake? Why did the witch give them a chance to confess instead of just killing all of them?" Tom shrugged again. "Look, that's just what my dad told us. Anyway, the rest of the story is once she visited all her son's killers, she disappeared. But every once in a while, there will be a strange death around town and people will say Old Mother Cleaver must have caught them in a lie." Terry spoke up. "Parents around here say if you're bad and don't listen, then Old Mom will get you. Everyone around here knows about her, mostly because of the rhyme." "Rhyme? Like Freddy Krueger?" "Sort of. I haven't said it in forever." Terry shut his eyes in concentration, trying to remember the words. Then he began to chant in a slow, sing-song voice. "Old Mother Cleaver, you will not see her. Hiding beneath your bed. While you are sleeping, she will be sneaking out to cut off your head." Grinning, Tom joined in. "Bad little boys and girls who are wicked to the world best say their prayers at night, 'cause those who steal and lie will have a big surprise when they turn off the light." Their voices picked up in tempo. "If Mother asks you, You had best be true. Answering from your bed. Else she will take her big, shiny cleaver. One chop and you'll be dead. Abruptly, the rhyme ended, the brothers fell quiet, and for several moments the only sound was the snapping of the logs on the fire. I cleared my throat, breaking the silence. Well, that's definitely creepy. But I still don't believe it. You don't have to, Tom laughed, because if you lie the cleaves will chop off your head either way. No way. I shouted, because if she tried, I'd give her one of these. I jumped up and tackled him. We rolled around in the grass, laughing uproariously. Oh, Sammy boy. Fighting's against the rules. Old Mum's gonna get her cleaver. He got the better of me and pinned me down. Well, Terry said thoughtfully from where he sat, undisturbed by the ruckus, we could take him to the house. In an instant, all levity drained from Tom and he stood, facing his brother. You serious? Last time we agreed there was no way we would ever go back there. Terry shrugged. I know. But we wouldn't have to go inside. Just show him where it is. Wait, I sat up. I thought the witch's house burned down. It did, Terry nodded, but there's still a few walls standing where it was. You'd at least know we were telling the truth about that. No way, Terry. Tom shook his head furiously. No way. It was the fact that the older, take charge Tom was so obviously terrified that made up my mind. All right. I'm in. Where are we going? Now? You're crazy, Tom whispered. Terry shook his head. The Ouija board said it was hungry. My name is Henry Amura. I work for a large law firm situated near downtown Los Angeles. We've handled some of the biggest, most controversial cases in the last 2 decades and have built quite a name for ourselves. I am using a pseudonym because, as you will hear, this story is almost fantastical, nearly too frightening to believe real. I don't want to ruin a career I have spent so much time and effort building just because some people don't want to believe the truth of what's out there. First, I just want to issue warning, never ever play Kakuri-san. No matter how innocent the internet or books may make it sound, don't do it. This is the story of how my life changed forever and how I lost something so dear. Spirit boards come in all shapes and sizes and various names as well. In the US, the most common one is a Ouija board. They are intended as children's games, when really, you can unleash something so powerful and evil that it may never be bottled. Spirit boards are just a portal to the other side, a way for spirits to communicate directly with the living, and that spirit can be good or a total evil menace. According to my research, you can use just about anything as your spirit board. In my native country of Japan, we played a game called Kakuri-san. With this game, you question the spirits about your future, and they will sometimes answer, maybe not with the answer you are seeking. We would take a coin, place it on paper with some words and numbers written on it, and the coin would slide across to answer your question. After you were finished, you were supposed to tell Kakuri-san to go home and slid the coin to the red Torii symbol at the top of the paper, and then tear the paper into 48 pieces or burn it. Almost 30 years ago, my siblings and I started playing Kakuri-san and did so a dozen or so times before moving to America without much more than a few funny responses from the fox spirit. The last time we played Kakuri-san, my brother asked the spirit, Kakuri-san, Kakuri-san, will you move this coin? The coin slid across the paper in repeated circles for a few seconds, then stopped. Kakuri-san, when will I become rich and famous? He asked. The coin slid slowly across the paper. The coin was pressing so hard against the paper that I thought it would tear, but we were barely pressing on it, something else was doing it. It spelled out F-E-E-D. Then a pause. M-E. From behind us, somewhere in the dark, came a deep guttural growl like that of a hungry dog. We didn't know a dog. We knew this was not Kakuri-san. It was never described to act like this or to be threatening. Something else had come through the game. My brother panicked, running across the room to grab Father's lighter from his desk door. He set the paper on fire and dropped it into the sink to burn, then turned on the tap to drown out the flames. I realize his mistake now, something that I wish he would have done, and maybe it could have prevented everything that would come. He forgot to tell the Kakuri-san to go home before destroying the paper. He left it trapped in our world. A few weeks later, our father transferred his job with a car manufacturer to the US and we moved to Seattle. At first, adjusting to the culture shock was overwhelming, but we had all taken English language classes in school and that made it easier. I can remember a day that we went into a toy store and we were shocked to see that there was a popular, widely sold board game that was like Kakuri-san, the Ouija board. Our mother forbade us from buying it, saying it would only invite trouble, and she was unaware that we had already played Kakuri-san numerous times by then. My brother and I managed to sneak over to the store and bought the Ouija board later that week. Katsuro was the most eager to buy it, which was obvious. I asked him why. Every night since the last time we played Kakuri-san, I've had these nightmares. They're too real. Sometimes I think they actually happen to me. In those dreams, I'm lying in bed and from the corner of my eye, I can see a dark shadow beside me. I can hear it taking deep, gasping breaths and the dripping of saliva, like it is starving. It speaks to me in a growl, demanding that I feed it. I asked him, "Did you ask what it wants?" He paused for a moment, deep in thought, as we walked down the sidewalk back home. "No, I always wake up and I can't move for a long time. Sometimes, I swear it really is standing beside the bed, like it is waiting for me to feed it, or to feed on me." I could see the fear in his eyes and his voice. I had no doubt he was telling the truth. "Maybe you were just dreaming, Katsuro. Dreams sometimes seem like they're real, but they're not. Dreams don't breathe into your ear while you're lying on your back and unable to scream, or yell, or do anything." I could only hang my head in shame because I felt terrible for doubting my brother. I wanted to believe him, but who could really believe something so outrageous without seeing it yourself? Katsuro was never one to lie and would practically break his neck to tell the truth. "Okay, so what do you want to do with the Ouija board?" "I want to speak to it, banish it back to hell, then burn that board. This time, we'll play by the rules. This time, it won't follow us." He was dead serious and had the bravery of someone far older than 12. Tears were streaming down his cheeks as he clenched his fists, his stride becoming faster and faster. That happened on Monday. Our parents would be out the following Friday to a dinner with some of Father's executives to welcome him to the USA, and they said they would be out for hours. I was in charge because I was the oldest of 15 and so I had to keep an eye on my siblings. Michiko was 14 at the time and she was too preoccupied with the wonderment of American television, so Katsuro and I decided to leave her out of the plan, and we also felt like it was favor to our only sister to leave her out of any chaos that might happen. I could read English well, but my siblings weren't so great. The Ouija board was in English, of course, so I would have to translate because Katsuro couldn't. We unboxed the game, reading the rules out loud. Never play alone. Check. Never play in a graveyard. Check. It made me double think if any were nearby, but I didn't believe there were. Never burn it. This one Katsuro became frustrated over. "Why not?" he cried, bemoaning. "I don't know, Katsuro. It doesn't say. They're just the rules. I don't think it'd be a good idea to question them. Never leave the planchette on the board." "Why not?" he asked. "I don't know. I suppose it would leave the doorway open. Stop questioning the rules and just listen." "Okay. Fine. Never ask when you will die. And the last rule, don't forget to say goodbye." That's the one we forgot with Kakuri-san. Katsuro reminded me. Thunder was rolling outside, and it sounded very close to the house. Then lightning crashed, casting the whole house in a bright light like a camera flash. Yes, Katsuro, and let's not do that again. I put the rules back into the box and slammed my palms on the table. If you so much as try to break any of these rules, I will not be to blame if something gets you. I won't. Good. Now, let's hurry before. That was when the lights shut off. Katsuro flipped the light switch several times with no effect. I remember groaning with indignation at the annoyance. What I hadn't noticed then, and what I wish I would have, was that Michiko never asked what happened or even made a sound about the power going out. We would see why later. No. It shut off the lights. It's onto our plan. The fear was growing in his voice. Shut up, Katsuro. It's probably the storm. Go get those candles that Mother keeps for emergencies. Hurry. Katsuro fetched the candles with an eagerness I rarely saw in him. He was at a running pace, and I couldn't see him, but I heard him rummaging through cabinets at a frantic pace, followed by the padding of his feet coming back down the hallway. Got them. Okay. I hope you didn't break anything, I said as I leered at him. Anyway, let's light them around the table so we can see the board better. I wish the power was working. His voice was quaking. I do too, but we'll have to wait for the power company to fix it. I struck a match, but it went out with an abrupt hiss. I thought that the match was just a dud, so I struck another, and the same thing happened. My annoyance was building at this point. I struck another, and another, and another, all of them snuffed out within a second of being struck. My brother found a stick lighter and tried that as well, but it did the same thing. There was no gust or blowing of the air conditioner that could cause that since the power was out. Finally, after several attempts, the spirit allowed us to light our candles as if it were mocking us. We began to play Kakuri-san on the Ouija board. Katsuro went to the window by the dining room table and opened it. The ozone smell of the thunderstorm flooded the inside of the house, and the loud rumbling of thunder filled the house. We removed the planchette from the box and placed it at the bottom. After a few moments of hesitation, we both placed our hands on the planchette and started the game. Kakuri-san, Kakuri-san, if you're here, please move this planchette, my brother said, unsure if he was saying the word correctly. He pronounced it more like blanket, but I just shrugged and laughed. In case you haven't seen a Ouija board, the planchette is the triangular piece that players put the hands on and is used by the spirits to point to letters and numbers. Within an instant, it began spelling out H-U-N-G or Y. What does it say, Henry? It says it is hungry, I replied, almost crying in my fear. I wasn't sure why I was afraid, but something about the way it jumped straight to its demand was blood-chilling.